Okay, so the reason why I am making this video is due to the fact that a lot of people working as sign language interpreters or sign language instructors have a difficult time authenticating the paperwork, the English translation with any form of sign, unless it is word for word signed English. When the English paperwork format, which means practically in legal terms, it means you have reached the full message once it is written in paper and signed off through some form of credible name. So here is a visual sign language format, and I'll put play here and I'll just go through it. Give me this 1 second and let's. Alright, okay. So, interpreters that are hearing typically think that you can't actually say that any of this is textbook related. This is due to the fact that those interpreters tend to follow the paperwork, including dictionary, English words, sentences, phrases, etc., in their mental space first, instead of the visual memory muscle developed once you've had years practicing sign language and being a part of the deaf community. So we will go back over here. See, the reason why I say that there is format to this is because you have this portion here that describes the topic, okay? In deaf culture, it is spatial language, which means that this word aneurysm is provided in example quickly so that you understand what aneurysm is, what the topic is referring towards. After this, it becomes more textbook grammar, syntax, structure, so that the legal terms to describing it in a paper format is equivalent. So give me another second. Okay, so do you see the textbook sign language there? This means that it is equivalent to what is educationally accepted as university and college level American Sign Language linguistics. So I refer to that as something similar to seeing it on a Word document. So you have a description being added and formatted officially to a Word document about aneurysms. You are using, in terms of English, correct English grammatical sentences to describe aneurysms. So here, visually, you have something that is similar. So you have where locationally you could say is the actual word in bold. So not the beginning description, which is just to locate the mental space for topic and then understand, oh, okay, it has to do with aneurysms or something along the medical field or the medical body to health related information. Just depending on who's talking to you, what type of information they are conversing with you beforehand, saying, like, hey, this is a topic that I'd love to talk about or discuss or get to know about. Do you mind going with me to this medical workshop to learn some words or something along that side? And so there is reason to say, hey, it's going to be about aneurysms. So the first 6 seconds later on, when you bring up the topic again, it's brought up through the spatial visualization, and then you remember that time, you remember that topic, and it brings you back to the moment. So now this portion, 6 seconds, and once I press play, would be similar to the equivalence of typing up the word aneurysms as the official word that you are wanting to bring to the Word document. Okay, so in medical formatting, sometimes there's a little description in brackets that has a sentence of the associated matter or reason, or a little short description of something related to aneurysms. And then you have the bold word, not the bold word, the word afterwards, or it is bolded afterwards, after you've hit space and enter a few times, and then you have the word aneurysm, and then you have more entered spaces, and then you have the more detailed information in paragraph form describing what about the chosen topic, which is aneurysms. So this part is usually in a medical format that you can create yourself on Word document, and it's just like you have a print blank white paper, and it's typically just a little bit above the middle range, and it is the placing of all of this that I'm telling you about. So for any of you that graduated high school, should have been taught some form of different varying Word documented Word document formats that you yourself can format. That's when Word docs was super popular. So here, going back to the video, here is where the word aneurysms, the word would be similar to what Niall is describing. So now, here I gotta go back to a more transitional conjunction time. And so now is when the sentence or two or three would be added to the Word doc with the more detailed description. Now, the reason why I allowed more time to be added with this description is because typically after a sentence or two in a paragraph, you can add a little more of a fourth or fifth sentence that adds to the description as a formatted example, saying describing the location of this aneurysm. Now we have found out that the location has formalized and has moved past this body location. and stressors are providing visual examples on the body through purple coloring in the skin where certain veins are. Okay, so that leaves room for this description, this visual description, and then it leaves room for the final sentence, or possibly maybe 2 sentences as the concluding sentences to end the paragraph in a appropriate official way fitted to this medical or legal form of Word doc formatting. So typically, there's room for those 2 for the last statement. Alright, that is the example, and hopefully it helps any of you learning American Sign Language and wanting to know a little more on the deaf sign, or the American Sign Language signing life, and how that does reach professional career, actual relation in your life, so that it's not pushed away and replaced with the English language in your mind, so that now that we live in 2026, there is visual recordings with better translations, with transliteration as an option, and that it is an official way to represent in an equal linguistic language, and not overrun by pieces of paper that is practically someone's statement. So like a rich interpreter with an administration position, and her words, her credibility is the historical record on file because she knows the language, and that doesn't provide, this person, she doesn't, or he doesn't provide the extra needed culture advocacy with accurate timings to represent equal visual educational knowledge for anyone that is not only deaf, but a person that can also hear. And through these efforts, these methods to recording records, real records that can be stored as video examples with real transliteration, real English language that can be almost visually provided an example, so that the piece of paper looks alike to what is being represented and explained visually in a video. So these are modern goals with all this technology, so that there is a culture that gets left behind in education, and this community wants to be seen and have the opportunity to find that individual right to achieve the same level of professional achievements that someone who hears and is brought up in the more popularized form of living and what is based on technologies. Well, now we are the closest to the future. We are not thousands and thousands of years behind. We are as close to the modern age as we can get. So, hope that helps. Something along the line that I picked up and has helped me. So, it's been a journey to see the different forms of sign categorized at different proficiency levels, and then to dial in one form of proficiency that gets left behind, typically deaf sign, and so that deaf individual has awareness on his side or her side, so that there is actual paperwork that is equal to a visual language, which is freaking exciting. You know, that American feeling to those who have written from true, honest minds with heart in legal American history that is the same level of proficiency that advocating is becoming a professional career in order to have the same level of equality from an individual that speaks and an individual that signs. Coming from the same equal levels of shared and known intellectual proficiency reached levels. So that we are not stuck in this belief of deaf and dumb. There is no deaf and dumb. There is only how many times someone is stubborn enough to make mistakes over and over and over and over again.